So I thought I'd have a chat with y'all when I'm walking. So every winter I have extreme neurological events in which I almost die. The last several winters I've come close to dying a number of times. I stopped sharing about them mostly after the ICU stay. I stopped going to the hospital because they tended to make me worse. Not tended, they did. One time they did save my life, while they also made me worse when I was in the recovery process, just because of the drugs they gave me. And I really do not tolerate drugs. It's not an imaginary or hyperbolic thing. It's the reality of my life. So I have confronted death on my own at home numerous times in various ways. One that's easy to explain is the times I've gone into anaphylactic shock and gone into deep mindfulness and breathed very carefully with a very constricted throat and mouth and body. Anyway, I've learned incredible mindful capacities as a result of being forced to face these moments. And when I'm not under the stress of facing those moments, it's time that I can actually be grateful for what I'm learning. But these lessons are razor edge sharp, and I genuinely do not know if I'm going to survive any given challenge. So this last neurological event that happened in December and up through right now, I mean, I'm clearly getting better because I can articulate myself. I go into non-verbal spaces in December and January. The body changes in fall and winter. And because of my delicate nature and certain kinds of trauma that affected me, I had a very extreme trauma that happened on Christmas when I was a child that destroyed our family. And so that is an anniversary. But it's not just some sort of psychic event. The body imprints. And in fall and winter, because of the brain damage from the psych meds, I go into dangerous spaces where I almost die every year. Now, this year, I did go into that dangerous space, and I've moved through it better than past years. And I didn't have to completely reverse the healing process as I had to do other years. And that's hard to explain, and I do understand it. And actually, if I could find someone who understood the brain and the gut and the body well enough, I understand enough about my body that if I found a person who understood the science, we could have an amazing conversation, and I would then learn to better articulate what my experience is. But I haven't found all the pieces in order to articulate to people who have not had similar experiences. So I'm sorry, and all I can say is you can believe me or not, and it doesn't really matter at this point. What is been most devastating and amusingly grounding and healing this time around was that when I reached out to my colleagues and peers, people who claim to understand the devastation that these drugs wreak, nobody in the MAD movement, nobody in alternative psych circles was able to understand that the neurological event was not impeding my mental faculties, that I was completely clear. My husband knows this, and because he lives with me and he sees it. But if I'm in crisis and I become mostly nonverbal, I found that everybody, my peers, my best friends in alternative psych circles, started treating me like a mental patient. And all of us who've been treated like a mental patient know what that's like. And when your best friends in the world who claim to understand the injuries that we have do this, it's beyond devastating. And I've gone through a period of mourning this year that is unlike any other. Now, what's also important to understand in all this is that there is nobody out there that knows how to meet these issues, because if there were, it would be those friends of mine who understand something about these injuries. Now, the friends I'm talking about don't have these particular brain injuries, but it doesn't really matter. The fact is, we in crisis will overwhelm one another. We cannot support one another if we're overwhelming the other. So I don't blame anybody, but it remained devastating to find that my friends could not see, understand, or support me in my most radical time of need. Now, I knew this on some level, but I had never reached out like I did this year. So again, the devastation is not just for me. I have my bare minimum resources that keep me marginally safe. And I say bare minimum and marginally safe because I do face death, and I'm not kidding about that. But so what, again, I'm always struck by is I have relative wealth of resources, and yet I don't have enough. And others with these kind of injuries that have much less, it hurts me to consider that. And while I have completely and almost totally withdrawn from the public scene through social media because it's stressful and it has kept my PTSD alive, my heart belongs to every one of us who've been injured in this way, whether or not we know how to support one another. I love you, and I will continue to work towards my own healing, that I might somehow inject what I learn into the collective, that we might all find healing. I love you all. Thank you.